Hello the internet and welcome back to my channel. Today on the desk I have two complete PC systems in a small mini tower case. I picked these up locally a couple of weeks ago. They were being thrown away, so I salvaged them from the skip, and I know nothing about them. Well, I've taken a peek inside. I know these are complete systems. There's the power supply, there's the motherboard, CPU. I'm not sure about the memory, there's some cards inside, but I don't really know exactly what it is, and most importantly, I don't know whether they're working or not. So I thought, rather than doing this on my own, I'll just do this on video, so hopefully someone will enjoy watching me exploring these systems which I know nothing about. Now, one important thing about these systems is that they have cases. Now, I haven't got 80 cases. These are the first two, and I've been looking for one for a while because whenever I want to fire up a MS-DOS system or a Windows 95 system, what I normally do, I get one of my motherboards, put it on a piece of wood, populate with some boards, some RAM, a CPU, and fire it up. But that's not exactly great. I really wanted something in a case ready to go, so this is great. And at the end of this video, or maybe in a future one, what I'd like to do, I'd like to choose the case I like most. I'll let you guess which one it is, or you'll find out by the end of the video, and populate it with my best motherboard, my best CPU, lots of RAM, sound card, video card, CD-ROMs, so that it's ready to go in a place where I can access it and I can literally turn it on and do whatever I need to do. Now, before we begin, I'd like to thank you all for all your nice comments you left on one of my previous videos, the Shuttle Socket 7 motherboard repair. If you haven't watched the video, I asked my viewers to leave a comment just to try and trigger the algorithm as my numbers were going down. Really thank you. I was submerged by comments. I should have replied to them all, and I definitely read them all. Thank you so much. That was really heartwarming, and I really appreciated each one of your comments and the time it's taken for you to just stop for a moment and write a comment. So thank you very much for that. And since I'm here, why not leaving a comment on this one as well? Any comment, again, just to tell the algorithm I'm here, I like this video, and I would like to see more. Thanks again. Enough me talking. Let's take a look at these systems. Right, here's my first system. It's an Abacus computer, and I had a look online to try and find out where it's coming from. I couldn't find anything. One of the reasons is that the Abacus is also a very ancient, I wouldn't call it computer, but like calculator, usually made of wood, that has its roots in the Mesopotamian civilization. So every time I'm looking for Abacus computer, Google is just flooding me with results from that machine. I'm assuming it's probably nothing special. It must be one of the many computers you could buy back in the days. The case is a bit yellowed, but that's not a big deal. It's in great shape. Once it's cleaned, I'm sure it's going to be in a great shape. It's not cracked or anything. We have two CD-ROMs. One says writing on it, so I'm assuming that's a burner, and that's just a reader. We have a floppy and the usual buttons, with the power button being a toggle button and not just a push button as you'd expect on an ATX power supply. At the back here I can see parallel and serial. I can see a video card. There's something here with the port missing, and there's something what looks like an S-video or a DIN connector anyway. It's not necessarily an S-video. There are two USB ports, so that's a good thing. We have a modem card here because it says wall here, so that means it's the telephone line. And what looks like a sound card because we got the sound outputs. There's a little bit of dust, but the good thing is I don't see corrosion or rust, which is great because it's not easy to find these cases in good shape. So it's time to open the case and see what's inside. Right, here we are inside the computer. So we got the power supply, and I can see some RAM in there, and there's a little cooler here under the CPU, and I don't know what CPU that is, and lots of cables. I guess this is the connector that was missing at the back, so that looks like another parallel port because it comes from the motherboard there. And this DIN connector here is actually coming from the motherboard, so that looks like a PS2. Yeah, this is one of those motherboard with AT and PS2 connectors on the same board, so they just fitted that on a bracket, which is great. The power supply is an AT power supply, but I can see the motherboard also has space for an ATX one. I would say let's start removing some boards so I can get rid of these cables, and hopefully we can see what motherboard that is. Now this is the modem, and from what I found online, this is a Zoltrix. It's model FM8818, and it's 40,400 bauds. I'm not sure how you pronounce that in English. Super high speed one 8-bit ISA modem. It's a bit dusty, but again, it's in great shape. It just literally needs a little bit of a brush. So the sound comes from the motherboard. There's no extra sound card here. I can see it says line in, microphone, line out, and then we have a gain port. And it comes from the motherboard. That's pretty cool. I'm so looking forward to see what model of motherboard that is. This is so amazing. There's a little spider here. It's dead. I can see here on the motherboard there's a Sound Pro IC, which is the sound card basically. Next is this card in here, which is the USB one. This is a PCI card, and it's just a very simple, modern Belkin USB card. Nothing special, to be honest. Not very interesting. It's too new, too modern. I don't care about that. Right, that's it with the card, which means... So this motherboard has a video card integrated in it, because the video output is coming from the motherboard there. Oh wow, what motherboard is that? Well, it's an Intel TX, as it says on the heatsink there. Well, I can't really find the model number of this motherboard, which is weird. It says designed in the USA, it says burn-in 24 hours on the BIOS, but I can't find any mention of a model or a brand. And thanks to the amazing Retro web database, I was able to identify this board by just basically looking at the number of slots and the layout of the board. And this is, again, a PC chips. I don't know why all the boards that come to me are PC chips or Amtrum, which is the same thing. They're not supposed to be the best, even though I'm told that this is not too bad. It's a PC chips M571, and I was a bit misled by this TX Pro 2, and I thought it was the Intel TX chipset. But if you're looking really closely, it says video inside, not Intel inside. So that's not TX, it's a SIS or SIS chipset with the video inside, obviously. That's it. So that's the PC chips. It's nothing special. It's just a socket 7 going up to 75 megahertz FSB, maximum of 384 megabyte of RAM and 512 kilobyte of cache. Now let's see how much RAM this computer has, because I haven't got much RAM for myself. So that'd be great if it came with a generous amount of RAM. Well, the module doesn't say. I would say, at some point I'll power it up and I'll find out, rather than me Googling and looking for the capacity of each one of these modules. I don't know, I think it's going to be like 16 megabytes maybe, because it's got USB ports. So obviously this was running Windows. I don't know, I'll go with 16 megabytes and we'll see what happens. What do you think? Just leave a comment. This motherboard, I have to say, is pretty flexible. We got video on it, we got sound on it, serial, parallel, ATX, AT, absolutely everything. So it might be cheap, but it's also very, very flexible from what I can see. Now, let's see what processor did I get with this motherboard. We have an IBM 6X86MX PR300. I'm definitely not familiar with these CPUs. I never used one. I have no idea how fast they are. Let's have a look at the specification of this CPU. Right, I had a look online. That is actually a Cyrix CPU. Now, Cyrix, not having manufacturing facilities back in the days, they asked IBM to produce their CPUs, and IBM made Cyrix CPUs, but they also released the same CPU with the IBM brand on it. That's based on the M2 core, which is the last core of the Cyrix series. Now I understand the Cyrix CPUs are inferior to Intel Pentiums, and one of the main reasons is that Cyrix focused on the integer performance of the CPU, while Intel had both good integer and floating point performance. And apparently the popularity of the Intel generated an interest in terms of using the floating point unit on the CPU, which Cyrix was lacking. Not that it didn't have it, it's just it wasn't as good as the Intel one. But that's a 233 megahertz CPU. I do have a 233 megahertz Intel. Be great at some point to do a little bit of comparison. Now let's take a look at these CD-ROM drives. That's the burner, and it's a Philips, and it's model CDD3610/55. I can see I found the user manual, and it's a CD-ROM reader up to 6.5x, and it's 2x recording speed. So that's pretty handy to have. Now the other CD-ROM, it says model A36T, it says 36X Max at the front. I don't see a brand in here, so I'm assuming it's one of those brandless CD-ROMs that were available back in the days. Okay, that is pretty good. I'm pretty happy about this motherboard. Again, it's a PC chip, so not my favorite, but it's got everything on it. And I'm told that that sound chip is actually pretty good. It's like a Sound Blaster 16 on steroids. So that's cool to have. But again, it's nice to have a full case and I can do whatever I want with it. The next step would be to test the power supply. I don't really want to power this up with everything connected to it. So I'll unplug everything, including the motherboard, and we'll power out the power supply, make sure it doesn't explode, test the voltages, and then I will rewire everything and we'll test this machine and see what works and what doesn't. I'm gonna switch it on in 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, got 5.2, the fan is working and it's surprisingly quiet. I'm so impressed. 5 volts is fine, 5.2 without load I think is totally fine. The white is -5, -4.7 is probably fine. I think this is -12, and more or less it is. -12 is never exactly there. For whatever reason, yellow is +12, and we have more or less 12 volts. Then we have another 5 volts, and the orange I can't remember. It's another 5 volts, can't remember what that is. Well, I'll just keep it on for a few seconds, but it seems to be working totally fine. Okay, I've got everything reconnected but the modem, because honestly, I can put it in, but I don't know how to test it. I don't have the USB card, because I'm not gonna plan to run Windows at the time being, or maybe, but not right now. And I'm gonna land on MS-DOS. That's what I got at the moment. And well, first of all, let's power up and let's see what we've got. Right, this is the moment of truth in 3, 2, 1, go. Yep, spinning, and I think we might have an output. Here we are, we do have an output. This is working, and yes, the CPU is correctly detected. Well, it says Cyrix, as I said, it's an IBM, as the Cyrix is the same thing. PR300. 1 megabyte of VGA RAM and 32 megabytes of RAM. Amazing. I thought we had 16, we got 32, which is great. I haven't got much RAM myself, so it's great to find something like this in a random computer. The battery seems to be low, so which is kind of expected, and it should be able to boot into an MS-DOS. And it is, it's booting into MS-DOS. This system is working. Amazing. There you go, that's my compact flash. Perfect, it's working. Now, there is a turbo button at the front. I'm not sure whether it's wired. So this is real-time CPU speed. And I'm gonna push the turbo button now. And it's not doing absolutely anything. I mean, Pentium boards usually don't have the turbo feature. So that's probably disconnected. But this is absolutely amazing. I'm so happy that I got a full system. It's a pretty nice motherboard, even though I don't like PC chips. The power supply is working, and I'm also assuming the CD-ROM is working. Well, it will need drivers. And we can test the floppy though. The floppy also works perfectly fine. It would probably need a clean, but it's definitely working. Fantastic! I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting something not to work, but it's great every now and then to have something which works. So let me get the DOS drivers for that sound card, and then we'll try and play something, and I'll try to patch the sound into my capture device so you can also hear it. By the way, the sound drivers of this card are the best I've ever seen. So easy to install, everything works straight away. I didn't even need to reboot the system. I've never seen anything like that. Amazing. It sounds great. I guess one question that will come before the end of the video is, what motherboard out of all the ones I have am I going to choose for my system, because this feels pretty good. Obviously it comes with integrated graphic. Is it going to be good? Is it better to use one of my own graphic cards? To be honest, I haven't got many graphic cards, so maybe this could be okay. And I'm not a massive expert when it comes to the differences between the hardware and everything, so I would probably appreciate your input, but we'll talk about that at the end of the video. Right now, I would say I'm super happy with this, so I would say let's move to the next system and do the same. Let's see what works and what doesn't, and most importantly, let's discover what's in it. Let me take a moment to thank PCBWay for sponsoring this video. PCBWay offers PCB manufacturing for all your electronic needs. The service is very easy to use. Just go directly on their website and upload the Gerber file of your project. The system will do most of the legwork automatically, but you can tweak the parameters yourself. The turnaround is usually very fast and can be tailored around your needs. I've used PCBWay for some previous projects and I was impressed with the quality of the PCBs. If you are interested, you can find PCBWay at PCBWay.com. Thank you PCBWay for helping the channel, and now back to the second system. And here we are with machine number 2. Now this is a bit more stylish than the other one, it's a bit rounder than the other one, but it is exactly the same size of case. We got 2 optical drives here, one is a writer, one is a burner, one probably not, floppy, and there's no brand whatsoever throughout the whole case, so this is completely anonymous. Here at the back, I don't think we got anything special. I can see 2 USB ports like the other machine. We got probably serial parallel, we got VGA, we got a modem and a sound card. It sounds like a similar configuration than the other one, so chances are it's coming from the same place. And here we are with the inside of this machine. Now I can see the motherboard has a brand this time. It says Crusader TX C587-1.1. Now I had a look online and this is apparently the same as the Procomp Informatics B587. It's an Intel 430TX, so this is a proper Intel TX chipset, and it's a socket 7 machine. It goes up to 75 MHz FSP. It got options of cache of 255 or 512, and I do see there in the corner I got a fully populated cache area, so hopefully this is going to be 512. Under this massive bunch of cable, oh wow, we got quite a lot of RAM. I can see 4 72-pin RAM SIMs, plus we have 2 DIMMs available which are empty. Now this motherboard has a video card, so we'll take a look in a minute. I would say let's remove some of this cable so we can take a look at what's inside this machine. So as I'd imagine, these are parallel ports and serial ports coming straight from the motherboard. So I'm going to remove them for the time being. I haven't got anything serial and parallel to connect at the moment. And on this motherboard, the USB is coming from the motherboard and not from an external board. So yeah, that's good. So we don't have an external board for just that. Now let's take a look at the RAM. I'm curious to see what we got on this one. Well, again, we got some unknown RAM, even though it's manufactured by Panasonic. Pretty interesting, but I've no idea of the size. Let's guess. I mean, we've got 4 modules. I would say this is at least another 32 megabytes, maybe. And I found an ATI Max 64 inside this computer, which I understand it's a good card, it's a 2D card, it's nothing super special, but it's definitely a good 2D card, well supported, plenty of drivers, very popular back in the day. So that's pretty good, because again, I only have another PCI card, which happens to be an S3 Trio 64V Plus. I also understand the S3 was a good card back in the days, but it's nice to have another one. And this seems to be equipped with quite a lot of RAM. We'll try and check that out. But this is pretty good. I like to welcome this card to my stash, a very small stash of PCI 2D cards. Here we got the modem. I can see there's these 1456VQH-T1 at the back, and I did a quick Google search and it looks like this was sold under several different brands, including Asus. It looks like it's a 56K brand, so this is kind of a modern modem. Really not much you can do with a modem these days, and now I have 2 and they're pretty much useless. Finally, we have a sound card. It's model AA1815B. It's got an analog devices IC on it. It's AD1815 US, if I see that right. I couldn't really find much online besides some drivers. It doesn't look special. Again, if you know anything about these boards, which I'm not mentioning, which you know better, maybe you had one of these boards on one of these computers, just leave a comment down below. I'd be really, really curious to hear. But it's nice, it's a ISA card. It's also nice to have an extra ISA card. And about the motherboard, it looks pretty nice aesthetically. At least I like the color. It's kind of a deep blue. We got 4 PCI and 3 ISA. We got Intel TX. We got 4 72-pin slots for SIMs and 2 168-pin slots for DIMMs. This board is accepting both AT and ATX power supply. The current power supply is an AT. Right, let's see what's under the heatsink. Right, I really hate this heatsink. I mean, it took forever to remove it. I hate the design of this. And also there's a capacitor here by the CPU socket, which is in the way. I mean, it's absolutely horrendous. Anyway, we got basically the same identical CPU we had on the other system. It's the Cyrix M2. The IBM we had before is based on the Cyrix M2. So that really is basically the same system. And if I see that right, this is exactly the same frequency, working frequency of the other one. Right, I got the heatsink back. I decided to go with mine. I thought it was easier. It's a bit easier, but it's just that the board design is not great and that capacitor is massively in the way. Anyways, let's put the video card back in and let's connect my compact flash and let's see if this system works. Now, as the front says, this is a CD burner and it says Ultima Electronics Corporation model WRAKA40. Never heard of Ultima? Have you? Just leave a comment down below. It sounds like one of those generics units you could find back in the days. And the other drive instead is Hitachi and it's a CDR8335. It's a 24x CD-ROM drive. So this is pretty good. Manufactured in May 1998. Right, it's time to test things, and as with the previous system, I'd like to test the power supply with nothing connected to it, just in case something really wrong happens. So everything is disconnected. I got my multimeter here on the 5 volts line, and let's power up in 3, 2, 1, go. The fan is working, it's actually pretty quiet, we got 5.2 volts. Now it's time to check all the other voltages, but everything so far is so good. So we got this white one, which I don't know what it is. It's a -5, this is -12 and it's -11, so that's also fine. Yellow is 12 volts, 11.8 is fine. And I can't remember orange, but again, it's 5 volt. And everything seems to be perfectly fine. So I would say it's time to plug everything up and see if I can get the system to work. And power is now connected, it's just a matter of pushing the switch. Now, will it work and how much memory do you think this has? I think it has 32 megabytes as the other system. Chances are these are coming from the same place. And let's power this up in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, yay, it lives. Oh wow, this is more. Whoa, where are you going? Whoa, 128 megabytes. That's so much. That's quite a lot. I haven't got so much memory in that format. That's a Crusader Blue Line C586TX 512K of cache. Amazing. My compact flash is being seen, so that's great. We got CMOS check some error, obviously, because the battery is probably flat. And it's working. Obviously, I have an error with the sound card because that's the sound card of the other system. It's fantastic. I would like to run some demos, but first, I really would like to configure this sound card so we can make sure it works. I can also do a little demo with picture and sound at the same time. But it works. I'm pretty happy. The motherboard looks pretty good. The video card is good. There's plenty of RAM, and it's another case. So, as someone would say,
winner, winner. Chicken dinner. We did it.
Right, I was able to find the driver for the sound card. It wasn't easy, and the card is incredibly noisy. But not all the time. It's not the best card. Probably I'm not going to use it on my system, but it seems to be working. So you know what I'm going to do to test this thing, right? Well, it works, okay? The card is somehow noisy, but only when it goes back to MS-DOS. I don't feel the noise during the game, but everything seems to be working totally fine. It looks like I got two fully working systems, which is amazing. Now, I guess the next question is, which one of these two cases I'm going to use for my own system? I asked this question at the beginning, did you guess it? And yes, it's not this one, it's the other one, the flat one, the yellowed one. I like the shape of that one. Now, I'm told that my S3 3064V Plus is much better than that one, and these are the only two PCI cards I've got, so I'm going to use this one on my, let's call it my build. Now, which motherboard would you choose? I have this Crusader here, I got the PC chip that we saw on the other system, I have the Shuttle, and I think I have another PC chip and an Amtron, which is also a PC chip. Now, the other motherboard that we saw on the other system has the advantage that it has an integrated video card, which I'm pretty confident is not going to be as fast as this one, and it's got an integrated sound card, which instead, I'm told, it's an excellent card. However, I also have this little board, which I repaired ages ago, so I can't really recommend going so back and watch one of my early poorly edited videos, but it's got a Yamaha YMF7193 chipset on it, and I understand that this is one of the best sound cards that you can get. So I think this is what I'm going to use on my system, and at this point I think I don't want to have another sound card on the system, which is definitely going to cause all sort of conflicts under Windows and DOS. So I think I'll use this motherboard and I'll use my 3064 and my Yamaha sound card, put everything together with USB, with Windows 98, and then we can run some tests and wrap up for the next video. I've taken this opportunity to retrobright the front panel of the case, which was very yellowed. Here I'm using 12% peroxide diluted into water. Despite several days of sunshine, it did not brighten as I wanted, and one side was still yellower than the other, but that's fine, it's much better than before. Refitting everything was like putting together a box of Lego, particularly the turbo switch, which came apart when I pulled it out. I swear it took me 45 minutes, my best tweezers, and 2.5 buckets of patience to put this contraption back together. But eventually I did it. Once back together, I gave the case a good clean, and here you can see why you really needed it. I'm pretty happy with the outcome. It's not easy to find cases in such a good shape. And finally, I moved the blue motherboard and all the cards I wanted into this freshly restored case. Now I'm going to replace the Cyrix CPU with this Intel Pentium MMX, which should be at 233 MHz, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the fastest Intel Pentium CPU you can get in socket 7. So that's the one I'm going to have, which is also the fastest I've got, and which is also untested, so I have no idea whether it's working or not. Right, this is nowhere near from being finished, and I couldn't remember how messy it becomes with these flat ribbon cables. I've got the motherboard, got the video card, the sound card, the new CPU. I should have set the motherboard to the right voltages and frequencies, and I might have all the front panel buttons and indicators in the right place. So in 3, 2, 1, go. Aha. Clearly I haven't got the frequency right for the Pentium. So let me double check my jumpers. And I believe I found a mistake in the jumper generator sheet, which is on the retro web. I will definitely make sure that that gets corrected. So I used what's on the motherboard instead. There's all the indications to how to set it up. So let's try this again. Okay, that's faster in booting up. Yes, 233 megahertz, Pentium MMX, and we got our 128 megabytes of RAM. Floppy is syncing, the compact flash is being detected, plus the CD-ROM. And it's booted up, obviously with the drivers of the other card. The next step is going to be to configure the staying. I think I'll install Windows 98 on it, and then it's going to be more or less ready. And then I think I will tinker with it over time, making sure that this mess of cable is sorted out, but at least it's working totally fine. Alright, so I decided to go ahead and do a little bit of cable management, and I had forgotten how difficult it was to do a proper cable management with this horrible flat IDE cables. I did my best. Let me know what you think about it. It's the same thing. The only new thing is the addendum of this little board here, which is a compact flash reader attached to a bracket, so I can access the compact flash from outside of the case for convenience. Now I only need to turn it on and install Windows on it, but I found a problem. In order to install Windows, I need to use the CD-ROMs, and I found that both of these are not working. This is only coming out, as you can see, and this one... Oh, this is working now. It wasn't working before. So let's see if I can revive this one. Okay. I got another one, but I would say, let's take a quick look and see if we can fix this. Right, I think I figured out what the problem is. So this little disc of metal where the actual CD is resting is a magnet, and the idea is when the drawer closes, it's attracted by this piece of metal here, so it makes a firm grip. And I couldn't understand what was going on, because when I closed this, the magnet is just doing its job, and the reason why the motor doesn't have enough strength to pull out the drawer itself is just the magnet is too strong. And then I realized, wait a minute, there should be like a plastic basket here. And then I realized, something is rattling here. I don't know if you see that, but the basket has detached and it's in the middle of the CD-ROM. So all I have to do is just to carefully remove that plastic basket from inside the CD-ROM and hopefully reattach it. There it is. There it is. Alright, will it work? I haven't tested it. Yeah, let's try and open the tray. Yay! Okay, we fixed something on this episode at least. Right, let me put this back together, and then I guess it's time to install Windows. Eventually, the other CD-ROM drive refused to open as well, so I decided to take a look. This one needed a new rubber belt. You can see how the belt is slipping on the pulley, which does not have the necessary torque to open the tray. The belt is visibly deformed due to age. I've got a replacement, probably on the small side, but let's give that a go. Well, it works, so it'll do for now. And once reassembled, the drive is fully working. When I went to install Windows 98, I encountered a weird issue. The system refused to boot after the first pass of the installer. It took me a while to realize that I had set up the compact flash using the auto setting in the BIOS, which automatically sets it using the CHS method, which stands for cylinders, heads and sectors. But halfway through the setup, I disabled the automatic mode. I didn't want to wait for the auto detection, and set up the compact flash using the LBA method. I did not know it would make a difference. So in order to use the LBA configuration, I had to repartition the drive, format it, install MS-DOS, probably not needed with Windows 98 boot CD, and start installing everything from scratch. But in the end, it completed the installation.
Let's rock. Damn, those aliens bastards are gonna pay for shooting up my ride.
Right, success! We have two working systems, but most importantly, I have a case. I really like it, especially now it's retrobrighted and nice and clean. I might need to retrobright the faceplate of this CD-ROM drive, even though it's an unbranded CD-ROM drive, and I think the other case has one which is a bit brighter than this one, so maybe it's easier to just swap the two between the systems. And you might be wondering what happened to the reset and turbo buttons. Well, that's very easy. I just forgot to retrobright them. So they're a bit on the yellow side and they don't look very well here. And before I put them back, I just would like to retrobright them as well, weather permitting. And after that, I'll just put them back. Also, you might be wondering what happened to the Abacus label that was here. The reason why it's not here is that I couldn't remove it because it was stuck to the plastic, and I retrobrighted the faceplate anyways, and it basically dissolved underwater. Now, I managed to take a picture, a high resolution picture, before it got damaged, so I have already a replacement which I need to just to print and attach to the plastic here, so no a big deal. I thoroughly enjoyed this process, particularly because really I didn't know what was inside this computer, and most importantly what was working and what wasn't. So we ended up with 100% of working stuff and a very nice system, which is now going to be my, always on, always ready retro system. And rest assured, you will get updated at some point with new boards, more RAM, different CPUs. That's going to be my testing system, always ready, always in a case, ready for me to use. Well, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, as usual, I would really appreciate a thumb up down below, and also consider subscribing to this channel if you like this kind of things. Also, if I can ask you to leave a comment, any comment that would tell YouTube algorithm that you like this channel and there's lots of people watching this video and liking this channel, that would really be great. For now, thanks for watching, I wish you a great day, and I hope to see you soon here on this channel for my next videos. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Bye bye.